If you are fighting for the right and for a true principle, be calm and sure and keep on until you win. These are the words of our founder, Dr. Ida Scudder, to her first batch of graduating doctors in 1922. Little did we realize that 98 years later, as we remember our 150th birth anniversary, the same words will have to be echoed. The legacy continues. CMC Vellore vision and mission mandates training healthcare professionals who go out to serve in approximately 185 hospitals which are located in some of the remote parts of our nation. Today, we have 8 such hospitals from various parts of the country. And we have our doctors trained at CMC Vellore at various points of their career who have committed a lifetime to serve and look after the poor and needy. Before we start our session, may I request our director, Dr. J.V. Peter, to say a few opening remarks. Over to Dr. J.V. Peter.
Very good morning to everyone. Greetings from Christian Medical College, Vellore. Thank you for joining in this program. CMC has always been committed to the dissemination of knowledge and science. Hence, it's not surprising that CMC has come forward to provide up-to-date information on the evaluation and management of a relatively new disease. We have also been involved in a fair amount of research that contributes to the understanding of disease. The team has had considerable experience in managing over 7,000 COVID inpatients and the spectrum of manifestations seen by the clinicians and the commitment of our faculty to detail forms a good platform to share our knowledge, insights, and experiences gained with others in the country, particularly those who work in remote and rural areas. The first few lectures of the series was focused on that aspect. Now it is our turn to learn from those who work with severe restrictions of resources and how they have innovated in this crisis. We laud the work of those who toil hard in remote areas without the luxury of infrastructural and manpower support that CMC has been fortunate to be provided with. And in a very small way, we want to encourage you, the foot soldiers in the rural and remote areas, through this platform. Thank you for your willingness to share your experiences, and we look forward to your presentations. God bless.
Today's panel discussion is a virtual town hall to learn from the experiences of our mission hospitals from across the country. The COVID pandemic is unprecedented and historic in its scale. Even as we read every day the figures in the newspaper, we know that each place is having a micro-epidemic, which is varied and variegated, as is the capacity of the health system to respond. Even as we focus all our efforts in our individual institutions, we need to be aware of and learn from the responses in different parts of our country, particularly from rural and underserved areas where there is a gap in information. While the government response has been predominant, significant, and effective, the mission and voluntary hospitals have played their role. Today, we are meeting with doctors from 8 Christian mission hospitals from 7 Indian states, all in rural locations in Tamil Nadu, Orissa, Bihar, Maharashtra, Nagaland, Assam, and Jharkhand. They vary from small hospitals to training institutes, small towns to remote areas, and today's attempt is to get a sense, an on-the-ground view of what is happening in each of these places.
So we have today this set of 8 panelists who are dedicated and among the best doctors that have chosen to work in rural mission hospitals. So we will first have each of these panelists given a brief description of the context in which they work in, and then we will follow it up with a discussion for about an hour. In this discussion itself, we hope to cover what their opportunities have been that this COVID-19 pandemic has presented to them, and the network of mission hospitals, the challenges that they have faced, some of the lessons that they have learned, and what the future direction would be in this in the post-COVID scenario. We hope the participants would be able to take away lessons from our discussion today and adapt it to their own areas, and use this as a catalyst also to network with each other and face this current situation together. Now I request Dr. Anand Zakaria to introduce some of the panelists.
Our first presenter is Dr. Sadevi Angami, Director of the Christian Institute of Health Sciences in Dimapur, Nagaland. He is a gastroenterologist, a postgraduate from CMC Vellore, and a Christian leader from the Northeast. Over to you, Sadevi.
Okay, good morning. Yeah, I work, thanks for inviting me for this Zoom conference. I work in Dimapur, which is in Nagaland. It's just in the Northeast, just bordering Burma. So we are a 200-bedded hospital, and we're a partnership between CMC Vellore EHA and the Nagaland state government. So there's a lot of involvement of all these 3 agencies into our institute. So as far as the COVID situation is concerned, as soon as we got news about the situation evolving, one of the first things we did was we developed a COVID rapid response team with about 20 members of our staff, because there was so much of information coming in, and so we felt that we needed a group of people to look at it from all aspects. And so this team formed, and then they started trying to filter out the guidelines, the information which was coming, treatment, etc. And they did a lot of training for almost all our staff. So over a span of a month or so, they conducted workshops for all our staff on various aspects. Then the very nice thing which came up was the Tata Trust COVID training course with CMC Vellore. And that was really a real boon. And so 12 members of our staff took on it, and some of them learned to be trainers. And that is continuing, and many more staff are getting involved in that. We also developed an isolation ward and designed it as such. And then we realized that there was a lot of public hysteria going on, and therefore we felt that we needed to develop education materials. So we developed again a team of people who started developing educational material, which we transmitted to the government, to the churches, NGOs, civil society, etc. And we gave all these education materials, and the churches and all also translated into their various languages. I'm not sure how much it has helped, but that's what we did. We also conducted 20 workshops around Dimapur amongst the churches, government, etc. And we hope that might have helped to some extent. We also partnered with the government to develop RT-PCR and rapid antigen tests and things like that. Then the government had lots of quarantine centers, and they needed help. So we also sent teams of people to help in the quarantine centers. And the COVID care center was something which the government was not very well aware of, and they were just getting flooded in their COVID hospitals. So we suggested that we develop one. So they didn't know how to go about it. So we developed it, and we ran it for about 2.5 months. And recently we've just handed it over back to the government. So, and then of course, within the hospital, there's been a lot of, everybody pitched in, developing PPEs, masks, tailoring units, etc. So now, some of the things which affected us was that 50 of our staff, there might be much more. What is documented is about 51 of our staff have been infected with COVID, and they came out of it. recovered. Everybody's recovered. Ours is a slightly younger generation group of people, so it wasn't that bad. But we had to develop a lot of support mechanisms for them from the Staff Welfare Committee and all that. Our patient load, of course, drastically reduced, and therefore finances came down. So we had to do salary deductions. So what we did was from the lowest to the highest, say the lowest salary we would deduct 5%, and the highest salary we deducted 40%. And that we had told all our staff about it, and they were okay with it. And so we implemented that in August. And September, maybe we might be okay now because things seem to be stabilizing now. The public also created a lot of hysteria and panic, and therefore lots of patients and their staff and our own staff were harassed. So that required a lot of engagement, communications with the public and all that. But that was a very major challenge. The fear and stigma was there even amongst the staff. So a lot of counseling, etc., had to be done. Then one of the major challenges was the rapid, the government guidelines coming at a very rapid pace, and the kind of pressures, several kind of pressures that they were giving to us in various ways. And therefore we felt that we, instead of waiting for those guidelines to come and, pressures and orders to come, we felt it's better to be proactive and engage with the government on a proactive basis. So we're looking at all the guidelines, communicating with the government on a regular basis. That I think has helped us a lot. Our community health team has been involved with a lot of contact tracing, and they've done more than 3,000 calls. They've done a fantastic job. Of course, so one of the problems which we also faced was because of the lockdown, the supplies were quite restricted, but I guess this is something which everybody faces. But some of the lessons that we've learned is several lessons that we have learned from this COVID response. And I think one is getting good training teams together, and which beyond COVID, I think we can use this for many other health topics. And also, we realize that we need to have more avenues for health engagement with the public and the government. Yeah, that's about it from here. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Ashita Wangmare, who's a physician by training. She did her undergraduate training and postgraduate training from CMC Vellore, and she works as a physician at the Chinchpada Christian Mission Hospital, situated in Maharashtra. Over to Dr. Ashita.
Good morning, everyone. I bring greetings from Chinchpada Christian Hospital, which is a 50-bed secondary level hospital with 8 doctors. This is located in Chinchpada village, which is in the Nawapur block of the, I'm sorry, I think my screen is not moving. Yeah. So this is located in the Nawapur block of the Nandurbar district, which is highlighted in this map, right on the northwest top tip of Maharashtra, bordering Gujarat. This is a predominantly tribal district with 70% of the population living below the poverty line and with very limited access to quality healthcare for the local people. Some of the problems that are rampant here are tuberculosis, along with other infections, sickle cell disease, diabetes and hypertension, as well as heart disease. The hospital is also well known for the wide variety of surgical services that are offered at low cost, for which people come from very far off, at the hands of experienced and versatile pediatric surgeons and a committed hospital team. Some of the attractions of the hospital, apart from its intentionally pro-poor services, are critical care services that are among the only available for a large proportion of people, and free food that is provided to all inpatients and their families, as well as a palliative care program that is a home-based program caring for 90 patients currently. So the COVID-19 pandemic brought many new challenges to the already difficult healthcare context of our local people. The lockdown meant loss of jobs, loss of livelihoods for daily wage workers, the return of thousands of migrant workers to the villages, lack of food for a significant proportion of our people, and difficult access to healthcare facilities with the complete shutdown of public transport. A majority of the private healthcare facilities in the area had closed in the wake of the pandemic. One of the major, markers of compromised overall healthcare in this impoverished region that we have seen over this period has been the increased number of patients who presented to us from distant places with extensive, unevaluated, and neglected tuberculosis. Among our patients whom we follow up on a regular basis, we found an increased number of deaths and a large proportion of patients who had been lost to follow up during the pandemic and the lockdown. And also, difficult access for people with tuberculosis. That's just a marker of what people were facing with non-COVID illnesses. Some of the steps that we took in this scenario have been, firstly, a firm resolve to remain open and keep services running through the pandemic. So there was a lot of sensitization and envisioning of the entire staff team to remain available to our poor people, even as we wisely strategize to protect both ourselves as well as those who are vulnerable under our care. There was intensive ongoing training in basics of COVID, infection prevention and control measures, and prepared written down location-specific protocols. Again, we are very grateful for all the help that we have received in this training from various friends, not least CMC Bello and the Tata Trusts, who have enabled a lot of training. In addition, we set up a triage system and a separate triage OPD, which was initially under a tree, as you can see here in the initial months. But with help from, again, different friends and NGOs, we were able to erect this shed, which served as a good triage area for our patients. There also needed to be, modification of the hospital infrastructure in order to be able to separate a wing of the hospital from the rest of the non-COVID care areas. There was also local crafting and procurement of PPEs, again, with a lot of aid and help from many supporters, for which we are very grateful. We also conducted community awareness and sensitization for appropriate community response and preparedness. Food support was provided for about 3,000 families who were vulnerable over the past 5 months. We also tried to track down patients with tuberculosis, as we mentioned, and link them to their local PHCs so that they would not default on their treatment. In addition, the challenges that we faced were, one, again, as remote location makes logistics for everything more difficult. We had quite a difficult time accessing testing facilities, which for us are 60 kilometers away now, but earlier were more than 120 kilometers. So our improved turnaround time for the RT-PCR test is about 48 to 72 hours. We also had challenges with staffing, with difficulty in keeping to recommended standards while maintaining quality of care. We have also had to decide for the moment on a ceiling of care for COVID, as the single ICU and HDU area that we have is always being utilized for very critically ill non-COVID patients with no other facility in the vicinity. There are also anxieties and myths in the community which cause a delay in presentation of all illnesses and increased mortality, particularly from non-COVID illnesses. So what are our learnings? I think repeated training of staff in infection prevention control concepts is crucial. We've realized that our sanitation staff need the most hand-holding in this area. We've also realized that we do need to innovate for ways to care for our non-COVID patients. We've realized that having a small isolation facility in the hospital is a big security for the hospital, because we know that there's a safe place for our COVID positive patients to be cared for. And patients also feel secure that they will not be abandoned in the event that they turn COVID positive. Above all, when we feel that our best is far from perfect, we realize that it is worth giving. Little miracles happen every day when we trust and hope in our living, loving God. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashita. I'd like to introduce Dr. C.D. Moses, Medical Superintendent of the Jalna Mission Hospital, Maharashtra. He is an undergraduate and postgraduate from CMC and a general surgeon. Over to you, Christopher.
Hi, good morning all. I saw Anand hesitate before saying Christopher, because in Velo circles I'm better known as Jalna. Jalna from Jalna Mission Hospital. Basically, Jalna is a district headquarters in central Maharashtra. We are close to Ajanta and Ellora caves, 100-bedded hospital. One of the big things that happened with us was that the health minister of Maharashtra state belongs to Jalna. So every government directive and order that came down was imposed on us even before it was imposed on places like Mumbai and Pune and Nagpur. On day one, sometime in beginning of March, I was taken away to a big building which was unoccupied in the government hospital headquarters. And I was told that I have to convert this building into a 120 bedded COVID hospital, dedicated COVID hospital for government with 40 ICU beds and 80 oxygenated beds. And believe me, we think government always drags its feet, but this was done within a record time of 21 days with us going and sitting there morning and evening and getting work done. We had our first COVID case in Jalna in mid-March, which was a lady from a particular community who had very, very indefinite travel history. And after that, the biggest thing that hit Jalna was all the obstetricians in Jalna stopped taking cases from one particular community in labor. They all got directed to Jalna Mission Hospital. Even we did not know really how to protect our staff because PPEs were not available. Other guidelines were not available. So I had to put all my staff into, believe it or not, raincoats with hoods and plastic bags, waste disposal bags around the legs tied by bandages, and they managed in it. But then we realized that in raincoats, you get dehydrated in about 2 hours. Today, from there, we developed into 2 separate labor rooms, 2 separate gynae obstetric theaters, etc., etc. And we have been successfully delivering COVID positive patients, doing cesareans on COVID positive patients also. That was one part of the story. Other side to understand was this differentiation between CCC, that's Corona Care Center, or COVID Care Center, DCHC, that's Dedicated COVID Health Center, and COVID Hospital. As soon as I read the guidelines, I realized that we could not have a COVID hospital because they want a 24-hour physician or an intensivist available in the hospital. So my hospital became a dedicated COVID health center with 25 oxygenated beds. When they demanded more beds, I have gone now up to 40 beds, out of which 35 are oxygenated, 5 are non-oxygenated. Side by side, we also developed a 10-bedded isolation ward in the hospital where the patients who are yet to be tested are admitted when they are suspect. Because major increase in number I felt was people who were tested and waiting for results in quarantine centers where you may get tested positive 5 days later or you may test negative and walk out. But in the meanwhile, you may get infected by somebody who is getting his results only after 5 days. So we had to have a separate area for that. This was developed. Our nursing staff came forward. We said, unfortunately, most of you will realize with old age-related mission hospitals, most of our staff has aged with us. And we have very few young staff who can be put into COVID wards, COVID ICUs, etc., etc. But nursing staff really cooperated. The nursing superintendent and principal took over the training of donning, doffing, all the procedures to be followed. We developed separate donning and doffing areas at the entrance of the ward. We had a ward which has got double door system. So patients who can walk around in the corridors, they can even come to the inside door and wave at their relatives who are out 2 doors outside them, and relatives also feel at ease. But then nowadays with WhatsApp video calls, that matter has become much easier than before. Other problem was procurement of PPEs. PPEs, I started by buying in black market at 1200 rupees a PPE and nobody to pay the cost of that. Today it has come down to 375. Part of my ward is paid. Part of the ward is under government schemes. One has to realize that government schemes pay only for the sick patients, not for the moderately ill patients who go on to small amounts of oxygen and require expensive drugs like remdesivir. All these understandings took some time, but Unfortunately, the day my first COVID patient was admitted in the hospital, 15 non-COVID patients took discharge and walked out saying, "Udhar to COVID hai, how can we be admitted in the same hospital?" Without understanding the fact that I have got 2 separate buildings for COVID and non-COVID. Buildings, not even wards. But this happens everywhere. I think all of us have faced this. Now, slowly, people have started understanding that our COVID and non-COVID workforce, buildings, everything is separate, and patients have started coming back. Patients who suffered most were those with tuberculosis, HIV, and my malignancy patients, because I have something like 40 to 50 chemotherapies a month in Jalna Mission Hospital. First, they could not come. Even if they came, drugs come from Aurangabad, they were not available. So we had to keep on postponing chemos. That became a big problem for some group of patients. Along the line, we also understood that we need to see our bed availability not only in Mission Hospital but in the entire city. And we did follow certain amount of statistics which was done for us by one of our ex-alumni from Bangalore. And we were fairly accurate, and we provided this information to the government hospital, the government nodal officer, and they also looked after their bed situation accordingly. They vacated the main civil hospital, which has got 300 beds, and converted them also into COVID beds. And then their non-COVID patients were transferred to some of us. Another thing I have realized along this thing is, instead of going for very expensive tests, if you follow the 6-minute walk test for deciding whether the patient can be discharged or not, that's more than enough. We check pulse oxy, make them walk for 6 minutes, again check pulse oxy. If it is not dropping significantly, I think the patient is fit to discharge. There are a lot of political statements which keep on coming. You should discharge in 7 days, 6 days, 5 days. Nobody has really come to any conclusion. So one has to go by science, I feel, rather than by political statements. Government will say 85% of COVID patients are treated free. It's wrong. 85% of the patients have to pay. Only 15% are treated free. What one has to do is look after its own staff. Are we looking after our staff adequately, especially those who are in COVID area? Many of them who were staying outside the campus, they were chased out by their landlords from rented accommodation, told, don't come into this area or stay in your hospital campus only. Many of their children were not allowed to play with somebody else's children. All these things one has to look into. On 1st of April, I had a talk with my staff regarding taking little bit of deferment of salary. They all saw the situation. They all agreed to it. We all took deferred salary of 20% from top to bottom, no differences. For April, May, and June, by God's grace, from July onwards, I have been able to pay them all full salaries. The deferred amount I thought I would pay for Hindu staff, non-Christian staff for Diwali, and for Christian staff for Christmas. But then staff cooperation, staff education, and collaboration and cooperation with government authorities seems to be one of the biggest things that is essential in management of this thing. Many patients who want private rooms, you have to tell them, look, right now we are shifted to one building, so you'll have to go to general ward. They understand, they know that probably this is the place where we are getting the best care surgically as well as obstetrics and gynae wise, and they all come. But it takes time for people to understand the situation. My ICU has been vacant despite the fact that I do not have a COVID ICU. My general ICU also remains vacant. Only surgical patients who have had prolonged surgeries go into the ICU right now. But because medical patients are not coming, they think that I'm still using the same ventilator for COVID patients also. So local understanding varies from place to place. places like where Ashita is, there is no other medical service. So people manage, they still continue to come, non-COVIDs continue to come. In place like Jalna, your own friends will say, why do you want to go there? There is COVID in that hospital. Come to our place, because they are in private service. So, I mean, those kind of things also do happen. But then these things will also pass. God has been good with us. From my COVID working area, no staff has turned positive so far. And I give credit of that to our donning and doffing procedures, as well as the quality of the PPEs that we are using, and the staff understanding the importance of that. I would be very happy to answer questions whenever they come. Thank you. Thank you.